Hello and welcome to our second episode. My name is Paige and this is Liz, and we are so happy to have you here with us today. We just wanted to take a second to say thank you to everybody who took the time to watch our first video, to comment and like it, and subscribe to our channel. And yeah, we are so grateful for your support, and we are just excited to keep making videos together because we had a lot of fun doing it. Today we are taking time to share about our Make 9 / our 2025 knitting plans. And so to get started, we kind of wanted to share just some values that we have for our making, and we each picked 3 words to kind of guide what our projects are going to be like for this year. So Liz, do you want to share about yours first?
Yeah, I would love to. So the 3 words that I thought of, and it was so hard just to pick 3, but would be intentional, timeless, and playful. I feel like I want to really intentionally pick the projects I'm doing, which I think is true for everyone, but also love the thought of being really timeless in my picks, pieces that will age with me. And then playful. The word playful that I thought about is little like pops of colors. I feel like I generally lean towards more neutrals, but I think over the past year I've been kind of integrating more color, and so I love the playfulness of some bolder colors or just more colors in general. So
nice. Yeah. I will share my words next. I chose, honestly, mine aren't completely original, but I feel like they still ring true. We have a place, a store in Kansas City that we really love to shop at that's called Home Song Market. And their kind of tagline or motto is simple, beautiful, and practical. And I really do feel like those words are just generally, in terms of like style, whether it's like for my home or for my clothing, things that I really want to take into consideration because I don't want to have a lot of things that I don't tend to wear. I think I just naturally gravitate towards things that are simple. So even though I could make things that are more complex, I think I do just like a good old stockinette garment every now and then. And then practical, I feel like I actually do, especially with sewing, I feel like the practicality of like what do I need in a season really guides my sewing, but also my making with my knitting as well.
we also decided to make some mood boards for our Make 9 or just our making aspirations for this year. So we're going to show footage of that throughout this video, and we hope that feels fun and inspiring to watch and see. We both had so much fun getting to make those, and so we can't wait to share them. But to start off, Paige, would you want to start with your first one on your Make 9?
Yeah, I'd love to. My first project that I have is the Tulip Loop sweater by Other Loops. This is just one of those sweaters that has stuck with me for so long. I feel like I saw it months ago for the first time and I saved it on Instagram and was like, I'm gonna make that sweater. I feel like with knitting, there's so many patterns that you can make, and over time, you might be inspired by something different than what you originally thought. And so I feel like even with our Make 9s, I might not make all the things on my Make 9, which I think is okay because throughout the year our inspiration might change or new projects might become available. But with that, the Tulip Loop sweater is one that I saw, has been in my mind, and I have set in my heart that I'm going to make it at some point. And I do think I will cast it on pretty soon after I clear my needles of a couple other projects. I don't know what yarn I want to use quite yet. I saw someone on Ravelry that used Blue Sky Fibers Woolstok worsted, and I also had somebody on our last video comment. They saw that I liked Pure Gynt or used Pure Gynt for my step-by-step cardigan, and they were like, if you like Pure Gynt, I think you would really like Knit Pick Simply Wool. So I might try that one for this project as well. I think I want it in a gray color is what I'm thinking. So yeah, overall, this is going to fulfill an aspiration. I did one project with cables last year. It was my Urania cardigan, which I shared about in the last video. It was pretty simple. It just had one cable on the neckline. And so I want to venture out a little bit more and try maybe a different kind of cable. But also I want an all over kind of cabled jumper. So I feel like this is a good entry into that because it's kind of a mixture of cables, but also all over rib as well. So Liz, do you want to share about your next project?
The first one on my Make 9 is the Winter's Pullover by Ozetta. And you're going to notice a theme, two themes. One, I love all of Ozetta's patterns, so I feel like so many of her patterns are on my Make 9 this year. And then also there's a brand called Baba, and they inspire me so much with their sweaters. And so quite a few of my picks are inspired by their brand and the pieces that they make. So I'm doing the Winter's Pullover by Ozetta, and I'm going to make it with the Cascades Eco yarn in the color taupe and hold that with Drops Kids Mohair in the color beige. I also have this dream, depending on if I have enough time this year, but I saw this beautiful blue Winter's Pullover by this girl. Her Instagram is Soft Spells, and she held it with Briggs and Little Heritage in the color Royal Blue. It's so beautiful. So if you want to go see it, maybe we'll include a photo, but you can also go look it up on Instagram. Super inspired by that.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be so pretty.
Thanks.
Cheers. My next project is the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit. I'm sure many of you are pretty familiar with that pattern. It's just a very basic, simple stockinette raglan construction. I'm going to be knitting it in Sandnes Garn Sunday in the colorway Yellow Moonstone, and then I also have Drops Kid Silk in the color Vanilla, which I ordered that one and it looked yellow in the picture, but the name kind of threw me off a little bit, and so I wasn't really sure how yellow it was going to be, but this is the yarn. It is actually pretty yellow, and so I was happy with the yarn that I received because I was a little bit nervous that it was going to be like a cream color, but also when I googled the color Vanilla, it did come up as kind of this like yellowy color. So I don't know why I was so kind of freaked out by that, but overall I really love the yarn combo between the two. I will say I feel like the Mohair is a little bit like more muted than the Sandnes Garn Sunday, but I feel like together I've swatched and everything, and the colors look beautiful together. So I'm really excited to have that one in my closet. I originally had seen quite a while ago Handmade by Florence, and the photo that I used on my mood board is Handmade by Florence's, but she made this yellow sweater, and I remember her saying like that she wasn't sure whether she would like it or not because of her skin tone and all of these things. And I kind of felt similar of like, I don't know how much I'm gonna wear a yellow sweater, but I was encouraged whenever she, as she continued on, like posted a few episodes later that she really loved the sweater and got a lot of wear out of it. And then Liz, of course, made her butter yellow sweater, which was so sweet. Our friend Jessica also has she used Knitting for Olive elderflower, which is this really subtle yellow, and so I just had enough people that were in my circles that I was like, I really want a yellow sweater, and so I'm so happy that I'm gonna make one this year.
So my next one is the Lakes Pullover, also by Ozetta. Ozetta, well, I guess her name's not Ozetta, but if you're watching this, know that I love everything you make. But truly, this is again another one inspired by Baba for me, or a pick inspired by Baba. It features a saddle shoulder, which I think is so beautiful, and I do think I'm going to make some alterations to it. I think I might do a wider neckline. I don't know if I'll end up folding it over. So those are two things, and then I think I will make it slightly oversized. So those are some things I'm thinking about, but I do know I want to hold it with Lion's brand Fisherman's wool in Brown Heather, or is it Brown Heather? Brown Heather?
Yeah.
If you notice, I'm always asking Paige. Is that how it's said? But yeah, Lion's brand Fisherman's wool in the color Brown Heather. So yeah.
The Lakes Pullover. I did the Lakes Pullover V-neck last year, and I feel like it was really fun, but also I don't know, you can't go wrong with a nice saddle shoulder. I feel like it just feels a little bit more, I love a drop shoulder as well, but it feels like a little bit more elevated than a drop shoulder. And also, I mean, there's parts of the construction that are fun. There are usually a lot of ends to weave in, but I feel like we've talked about this, and that doesn't feel like a detractor of like whether a pattern, we like the pattern or not. It just feels like a fact of the matter, if that makes sense of, that's just part of what comes with it. So I think, I think you'll really love having a Lakes Pullover.
Thanks. I'm excited.
Yeah. This next pattern that we have is a shared pattern with Liz and I. And so we have talked about doing a little knit along amongst ourselves with the Margaret sweater by LeKnit. I feel like we both have talked about how we want to make a colorwork sweater of some sort this year. And so we both saw that and really loved it and thought that it would be a fun project to do together. For me personally, I don't feel like I am super committed to colors or yarn yet, but I did a little looking at Knitting for Olive yesterday while I was planning, and I feel like I have in my head some kind of combination of like brown, like a light yellow, maybe a light blue, and then maybe kind of like a beige cream color, and then maybe black. I can't remember how many colors it calls for, but looking on the Knitting for Olive website, I really loved Hazel, and I think I would maybe do that as the main color. I really love Dusty Banana, which Liz used that for her yellow sweater, and I feel like ever since I saw that, I was like, I really want to use something with Dusty Banana. I also really loved Soft Blue on their website, and then Oatmeal as well. Did you have colors picked out for yours yet, or are you still kind of to be determined?
I think mine's still to be determined. Yeah. Honestly, all of those, I saw your notes for those, and I was like, I might end up being inspired by your color picks in those because fun. I was looking at them. I was like, these are good color combos. Yeah. So
add it to the list of matching projects. Honestly, it's great. Yeah,
I love that. Okay, so this next one is inspired mostly by the yarn, and then I'll share the pattern that I want to make, I think, with it. But it's the Sandnes Garn Pure Gynt. In the color Matcha. I think it's a newer colorway of theirs, and I think it's so beautiful. Kind of presses into the playful element of my values. It's a color that I don't think I have anything in my wardrobe within that colorway, and so I feel pretty. It is.
I don't know. It's not like the jade green, but it's also not like a foresty green. I feel like it's just such a pretty and unique green color.
I think I want to make the Amy sweater by PetiteKnit with that yarn. That might be one of my soonish cast-ons, and I'm really excited. I think it'll be really sweet for a spring wear. We can have semi-cooler springs here, and so I feel like that is something that I'm excited to have for springtime. So yeah, that's my next one.
Nice. My next project is Cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I already purchased the yarn for this, and I purchased Sandnes Garn Pure Gynt, going off of what you just said, but I did it in the colorway Marzipan, which I used the same color as the base for my Cottage Garden hot water bottle, which I talked about in our last video, and I just used that color for I loved how it worked up in that project, and I was like, I have to make a garment in this color. I feel like a good kind of like cream-ish, like, I don't know, almost a mixture between cream and like a light beige.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah.
Which I feel like I love white or cream colored sweaters. I have been a little bit scared to make one since starting knitting, because was kind of afraid that if I got it dirty or something and I spent all that time on it, that it would be a waste. But I would say I feel like I take pretty good care of my knits, and also have been pretty cautious, like when I am wearing them, not to like spill food on myself, which can happen sometimes. But I feel like I haven't had any major issues yet with like getting something really dirty. So I feel like this is the perfect color because it's not like a white that will really show a lot of stains, and so I'm really excited to use this yarn.
Okay, my next one is inspired by another Baba. It's Baba sweater number 23. I just love everything about the fit. I love that it is slightly shorter, both in the body and the sleeves. It features the 4 buttons and the slightly wider collar. And I think I was looking around for different options and I came across the Nature's Cardigan by Ozetta. Surprise, surprise. And I think I'm going to make that and make some adjustments to get it closer to the Baba inspiration. So I'm kind of trying to do the math ahead of time because it is knit from the bottom up. And so it makes it slightly harder compared to when you're knitting top down. You can kind of try on the body as you go. So I'm kind of doing some calculations ahead of time. But if anyone has made that and made any alterations to the body, let me know, because I would love to hear how you went about it, because I do think right now the pattern is written for 5 buttons. It's a slightly longer body than the Baba, so I'm wanting to do 4 buttons and again, just that shorter body. The yarn I'm thinking of doing that with is Knitting for Olive in dark moose or brown bear, and I didn't mention the merino, and holding that with a mohair in probably the same colorway, but I'm kind of torn between those two. They're very similar, but I think I'm gonna lean towards the brown bear and end up doing some dark chocolate buttons as well with it, so it's kind of a monochromatic moment, which I think will be really fun. So yeah.
I've never done a bottom up garment. I feel like it's one of those things that feels intimidating on the onset, but honestly is probably not that big of a deal to do. So I'm curious to see what your experience will be like with that, because I've never done it. So I think that will be fun to watch. And does that one have pockets on it?
It does.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
That'll be so fun. I also haven't ever made anything with pockets.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I saw someone on Ravelry say that they use their pocket as their gauge, which I thought was such a good idea. So I think I might do that.
That is so smart. Man, save some knitting time.
Yeah.
My next project is the Simple Things sweater by Kutovakika. I'm not really sure if I'm fully committing to that project. I got her Knits to Wear book just this last month. I thought it was so fun because obviously the patterns in it are beautiful. I also watched her video where she got all the photos taken, and all the photos are taken in Copenhagen, which we went to Copenhagen this last summer. So I also thought it was kind of like a sweet little memento because the photos are taken from there. So generally I feel like this is on my Make 9. I do feel like the Simple Things sweater is appealing because it would be nice to have another kind of stockinette garment in my plans for the year. But also I think I just generally want to, my goal is just to make something from that book, whether it's like an accessory, a sweater, a cardigan, whatever. So I do think that will be something that's later on in the year as I've kind of made a few things and kind of decide which pattern I want to use. Simple Things sweater calls for either 2 strands of fingering weight or 1 strand of DK. So I really feel like I'm just gonna let the wind take me wherever it wants to with that project, whether I do it or not. But also I feel like I have no idea of color, what yarn I want to use, any of those things. So yeah, just generally having that one as a placeholder for something to make from the Knits to Wear book.
So fun. I'm so inspired by that book. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, there's so many. I feel like she did it, and the whole part of it is just kind of also is in line with what I was saying about the values for like kind of practical knits. Like if she really wanted to make patterns that people were like unique, but also ones that people would get a lot of use out of. And so I felt like really inspired, even just behind the why behind the book, because of that. So yeah,
I love
lots
that.
of good projects.
Okay, so my next one is socks, which is so exciting. I haven't knit a pair of socks yet, and so it's officially the time. I actually got my yarn for my first pair, and this is so fun. Paige and I didn't know this, but I was showing it to her, and we realized this is the same yarn that she used for her second pair of socks ever, and you said the only socks you currently have.
I knit 1 pair of socks, gave it away, and because they didn't fit me. And so my second pair of socks, and the only socks that I currently own right now, are made in that exact same colorway. So
it's so beautiful. We might show a little B-roll of it so you can see, but it doesn't translate super well on camera. But how would you describe this?
It's a very interesting color, because even the other day when Liz showed it to me, I thought like it was kind of the light. It was at night when Liz showed me, and it looked kind of white or cream colored. And today it kind of has like a greenish tint to it. Honestly, a little bit like the Knitting for Olive, the fennel seed color. Yeah. But I would say like a little bit lighter, like less pigmented.
Which is so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the yarn store and the gal there was so sweet. I was like, I'm making my first pair of socks. These are the patterns I'm thinking about. What do you recommend? And so this is what I got. And I'm thinking of either making the Ruffle socks by PetiteKnit or just a vanilla sock. So TBD, but I'm going to be casting that on soon, which will be so fun. So hopefully I may get a share about that in our next video.
Yeah, so fun. I'll keep on the sock train. One of my kind of, I guess, general aspirations for the year is to make 3 pairs of socks, because like I just said, I only have 1 pair of socks, and I've been knitting for like 2.5 years now, and I only have 1 pair of socks. So I felt like it was high time that I get another pair of socks, or at least try to make a rhythm of making them every few months or so. And so my first pair that I'm going to make this year and on my Make 9 is the Quilty Cabin socks by Horse Feather Fiber Arts. I first saw these socks by Marlene Knits. I feel like she's kind of the queen of having like incorporating quilting into her knitting. So I really am inspired by Marlene's making in that. And so I really loved her pair. I also included that, her pair of socks on my mood board, which was really fun. I plan to make these socks in Coast to Coast Classic Sock in their Unexpected Friendship colorway, and then also their colorway Leek. I bought the pattern for this pair of socks and looked in my stash, and I saw both of those, and I was like, honestly, these go perfect together. And so I was really excited that I had those. It's really fun. Coast to Coast is in Wichita, Kansas, which I know a lot of people in the knitting community really love Coast to Coast yarn. And it's so fun because she's only like 3 hours away from us, and it's in a town that I pass through on the way to see my parents. So when I'm making the like 4.5 hour trip to see my parents, I have the opportunity to stop at Coast to Coast Yarn. So I actually got to buy both of these skeins of yarn in person. So I'm hoping I might go back probably sometime this spring and maybe can stop by again, because I also got a gift card from my mom for Christmas to Coast. So it would be fun to get to go in person and pick up some yarn from them.
I love that. Those colors are so beautiful. Oh my goodness. We also need to make a little road trip together to go.
That'd be so fun.
We've talked about going with our friends, Jess and Rachel, and so we should plan something for that.
The Coast to Coast yarn queens.
Yes, honestly. They really are.
And sock queens. I feel like there are like sock inspiration, honestly.
Yes.
We need them to rub off on us.
I'm so inspired by that sock pattern. I feel like it may not be this year for me, but I would love to make that at some point. So I feel like
if you got like one, if you did like the Margaret sweater or something, got like one color work project on like a bigger gauge under your belt, like I feel like that was what helped me, was doing a color work project on a larger gauge, and then I feel like that prepared me to be able to do a color work sock. So, and it's really simple. I don't feel like it's that difficult of a color work pattern. So
it makes me so excited. So inspired by you. The next one on mine I'm thinking of is the Maggie Cardigan by PetiteKnit. I think this one would be such a fun spring knit, and I'm thinking of using Knitting for Olive Merino, and there's like 3 different colors I'm leaning towards, so it'll probably be a decision that I make closer to casting on. But I love Dusty Banana, and I would love to use that again. I think that'd be so beautiful for spring wear as well. I also thought about Dove Blue. I don't have any light blue garments, and so I think that'd be really beautiful. And then I actually don't know entirely how to say this one, but Bordeaux. Don't judge us.
What is it? Bordeaux?
Bordeaux?
You know?
I'm so sorry.
Your guess is as good as mine.
If I'm not saying that right. Oh. But I would hold that with a Knitting for Olive Mohair as well. Cool. So, yeah.
Nice. My next few projects are sewing projects that I have on my Make 9. If you watched the last video, you're probably not surprised by this one, but I want to make a pair of lane pants in a red gingham pattern. I love that pattern so much. I've made it like 7 times now, so I'm getting a lot of use out of that pattern, which is great if you've bought a pattern and you can get that much use out of it. And I will continue to get a lot of use out of it. And so, yeah, I think I'm just planning. I already have the fabric for this. It's just like 100% cotton from just a local fabric store. And there's not much else to say about that.
Yeah, I love those pants so much. We talked about it in our last video, but Paige sewed me a pair of those as well, and I love them. They fit so well. I would love to learn to make a pair as well.
And you also have a pair of red gingham pants, do you? They're Sonderhaus?
Yes.
Yeah, those ones are so fun.
Thanks. Oh, those are going to be so beautiful. I feel like those are such a fun pair of pants to wear throughout the whole year as well. Like I feel like they fit so winter, but also I think of red as a very summer color.
Yeah, I know.
Too.
Yeah.
So
before it gets like deathly hot here in Kansas City, I'm like, I'll wear them until I have to. Which it's funny because I already have a pair of red gingham shorts, and so it's like honestly, I have kind of matching. I guess I don't have a black pair of or a pair of black gingham shorts, but I'm kind of a 1-for-1 right now almost of like having them in shorts and then also having them in a longer pair. But also I feel like gingham in general, I love gingham, and so I feel like I want everything in gingham, and then I have to hold myself back because I'm like, I don't need this much, but also it's so classic.
I love it. I feel like we both live in all of our gingham things, and I'm here
gingham
for
everything. Yes.
Okay, so the next thing on mine is more of a general. I would love to make my first textured piece this year, my first textured project. 2 that I thought about, which I think I mentioned earlier, is potentially the Tulip loop sweater as well. Another potential knit along. But the other one I've been eyeing for a while is the Jenny sweater by PetiteKnit. I really admire that pattern and think it's just such a beautiful sweater. This will probably be a later in the year project for me, but yeah, just generally would love to make a textured sweater. So I'm also open to recommendations if you have any that you've really loved making, or if you have any that you made even as your first textured project that you would highly recommend. I would love to hear as well.
Yeah, it's fun. My next project, it's more so I already had the fabric and I needed to figure out what I wanted to make with the fabric. So I found this brown gingham fabric at a fabric store here in Kansas City, and I just bought it because I feel like, again, gingham, I love it. And I honestly feel like finding brown gingham fabric is not quite as common as like red or black or navy blue. And so I kind of just saw it, bought enough of it that I could make maybe at least a dress, or like at most a dress. But if I wanted to make some smaller projects out of it too, I could do that. So it has a little bit of stretch to it, the fabric. So I've done one project with stretch fabric and it was not the best, but I don't feel like this fabric is quite as stretchy, so I think it'll be a little bit easier. I first want to try to make a skirt with it, just kind of like a flowy skirt. And then if I have enough to make a top, maybe I'll do a top. But the pattern that I think I'm going to use, and I already have, is the Betty dress pattern by Rooney Sewing Patterns. we both, I feel like, are really inspired by Courtney, the designer. She has a video of how she hacks the dress pattern into a skirt. And so it's just kind of a 3-tiered skirt, which is really simple, but I think is really beautiful. I already have the pattern. I already have the pattern cut out. So I think it'll be really easy I think you just have to add a few inches to each of the panels to make it into a maxi length. And so it's one of those that I've been wanting to make for like a few months now, but just have not gotten around to. So maybe I'll try to make that soon because I think it'd be so fun to have a brown gingham skirt.
I love that fabric so much. That's gonna be so beautiful. I'm so excited to see it. Okay, so the last thing on my Make 9 is inspired again by a brand I love called Doen. They have this skirt called the Sebastian skirt that I've been looking at and eyeing for so long, but I would love to try to sew something similar to it. I came across the skirt called the Zamora skirt pattern by Madswick. I don't know if that's exactly how you say it, but it's spelled Madswick. And I think I would just make it in a white or a cream, but I think it would be a piece that I would wear for a very long time. I love that it's very transitional with seasons, and also I could see myself wearing it with truly any of my sweaters or cardigans that I've made, but I specifically have this vision of wearing that with the Maggie cardigan in the spring. So I think that would be a very fun pairing. So that's the last thing on my Make 9.
Yeah. I also feel like a white skirt is like a Liz classic. Honestly, it's like, I feel like you look so great in a white skirt.
Oh, thank you. I feel like it's definitely white skirts are part of my starter pack.
Yeah, I would agree. Yes,
pack,
which is great. Skirt. And honestly, it's nice because even if you have multiples, you can have different, I don't know, even just like different kinds that serve different purposes too, which is fun. I have a few more projects that I honestly had a hard time kind of narrowing down my Make 9. And so just figured I would share a few projects that I had in addition that I also included on my mood board. So I'll just kind of rapid fire those a little bit. One of them is the Amelie Tee by PetiteKnit. This one, when we were in Copenhagen this summer, we went to the Knitting for Olive store, which was really fun. And we both purchased the Knitting for Olive Merino in Poppy Blue and Wheat. And so I cast it on in September, actually, I think. And I realized I wasn't going to finish it by the time that it was kind of, I don't know, still usable. And so I wasn't feeling quite as excited about knitting it. And so I was like, I'm just going to put it on pause until the springtime and pick it back up, which I think will actually be nice because it's a raglan construction and I already finished the yoke, which I feel like for me, I kind of get bogged down sometimes with raglans, especially when there are a small gauge like that, because it feels like you have a million stitches on your needles. And then you're like, oh my gosh, when is this going to be done? And so I'm really excited to actually finish that one and pick it back up in the springtime. Other ones that are on my list, I generally just want to make a black skirt. I don't know what fabric I want to use or what pattern. Rachel mentioned to us the other day the Henrietta skirt, I think, by Spaghetti Western Sewing. And so I feel like that's a strong contender. I'm also open to suggestions if you guys have any good kind of maxi skirt patterns. But yeah, a black skirt in general. We made some skirts together this last summer. Was it in the summertime? And I made like a white tiered, it was a really simple tiered maxi skirt. And I feel like I love that one so much. So I was like, I feel like I would get a lot of use out of a black one as well. Another sewing pattern would be the Rhodes Overalls by Rooney Sewing Patterns. I've had that pattern in my pattern library for probably about 1.5 years now. And I think when I bought it, I was a little bit intimidated by it because I don't think it's super difficult, but it just has a few things that I haven't done before. And so I've just been kind of sitting on it. I've really loved, Liz, you have a pair of Levi's overalls, and I've really loved those. And also I just love overalls in general. I feel like for the last several years I have some kind of overalls in my rotation. And so I don't feel like I have a pair right now that I really love to wear. And so I honestly might even still buy the Levi's ones because I love them so much. But I also thought it'd be fun to make a pair of overalls as well. So Maybe I'll make the Rhodes overalls. I think I will still, regardless. I'll make a pair of the Rhodes overalls because it's been in my library for a while. And then my last sweater, which is one I really feel like I will have capacity to make, but I also feel really excited to make, would be the Porcelain Damask, I think is how it's said, sweater, which is by LeKnit. Rachel sent this one to us a few weeks ago, and I feel like ever since I've seen it, I cannot get it out of my head. And I feel like it kind of fits that, what you were talking about, kind of like a textured sweater where it's really simple. It looks like it has just kind of like a knit purl texture. I've made the sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear a while ago, and then I also made the Esther sweater baby this last year for my niece that was just born. And so I feel like I have an itch to make something that kind of has like a little bit of texture to it. And so I really love the pattern designer used in one of her samples, Sandnes Garn Sunday and their Tin Silk Mohair in the colorway Arctic Ice, which I really loved. It's just like a really subtle blue. I feel like I've been wanting something, I feel like you had mentioned this well, like a light blue sweater or a light blue something. And so I've had that in my mind for a while. I think the Arctic Ice might be a little bit too pale or like not quite as pigmented. And so I also really love the Sandnes Garn Above the Clouds colorway, which I think is one of the PetiteKnit colorways. And so we'll see what happens, but I feel pretty certain that I will make that sweater at some point this year. So
I love that. That's exciting.
I know.
That one is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah. Do you have anything else? Any other patterns you're thinking about or
I guess
you're wanting to make?
I was gonna say an honorable mention, but I'm actually gonna make this soon as well. And so kind of add it to it. But I would love to do a self-drafted skirt in like a butter yellow or brown. Again, another theme you're probably noticing is I love those two colors. So I'm gonna try to find fabric for that and do that semi soon. Yeah. But I forget about our 3-tiered skirts. I love those so much. Yes. That was so fun getting to make those together too. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for watching, friend. We feel so grateful that you would take the time to watch and listen and just step into what we are dreaming about and feeling inspired by. It was so fun to sit down and compile these lists of things that we would love to make. We would love to hear 2 things. One, if you want to share your 3 values of pieces that kind of guide your decision with what patterns and pieces you're making. Again, we kind of briefly shared that at the beginning, but however you want to share that. And then part 2, if there are any specific patterns that you're excited about making this year, we would love to hear. So thanks for watching, friend.